As many of you know, I was an avid Ron Paul supporter. I am now probably with Bionic Dance, who said she agrees with about half of what he says and the other half makes her want to run screaming. Freedom and liberty were the battle cry of the Ron Paul candidacy, and were taken forward by the Ron Paul and Fox News branches of the Tea Party movement. Freedom is a word thrown around and rarely analyzed by the Tea Partiers. Atheist Blind Chick recently made a video discussing whether the government should pass laws and raise taxes on harmful items because we have the right to put anything into our bodies that we want. She asked whether forcing restaurants to put their calorie amounts the same size as the price on their menu wasn't an infringement on the company's rights. Well, what is freedom? The best definition would be the ability to say and do whatever you want, so long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of others. So by that definition, you putting whatever you want into your body should be your choice and the government should stay the hell out of it, right? Well, if it was that straightforward and simple, then yes. However, after taking a psychology class and doing a lot of research, I had to come to the conclusion that it was a lot more complicated than that. In my video series, The Roots of All Evil, I posed the idea that evil is any destructive behavior that is caused by three things: ignorance, laziness, and addiction. Knowledge is essential to freedom. If you are unaware of the dangers and don't even think to question whether there are dangers, you will create great harm for yourself or others. A direct inverse correlation has been found between the level of education and crime rates as well as weight levels, because when people are trained to self-analyze, they learn self-control. Without knowledge, you are a slave to your own ignorance and are not free. People who cut school budgets or create inefficient programs like abstinence only may know this and may use it to enslave people. Less educated people tend to vote Republican according to statistics. As for menus and calorie counts at restaurants, finding calories at most places is difficult, and unless you inconvenience your server by asking for a calorie list, then calculating a decent meal, thereby negating the point of fast food, then you will end up just making a guess and usually underestimating the amount the food has. When I was dieting, I had to save calorie information in my glove compartment on menu items so I wouldn't go over my level, and I am always shocked to find out just how fattening most of the food is. It is a ridiculous hassle to eat healthy when your job and lifestyle don't allow you to have much other than eating out. Because of this hassle, many don't have the time, energy, or willpower to hunt down the information they need to make healthy choices. Yes, people have the responsibility to take care of their own health, but if we can make it easier, then people will do it even better and more efficiently. Addiction is also something many are enslaved to. Carbohydrates and nicotine are both very addictive. Atheist Blind Chick does not look like she's had many problems with carb addictions, as she has one of the sexiest torsos on YouTube. Carbs release dopamine, which is like a tiny dose of cocaine each time you eat a big meal. You feel less happy if you try to eat less. Life sucks a little more and willpower is a bit harder to come by. Throw in some stress and you've got serious problems. Stress produces cortisol, which causes a serotonin purge from your brain, along with many other long-term unhealthy factors. If you don't have time to work out and remove cortisol from your system, it will leave you feeling unhappy and depressed. If you can make it up with dopamine from, say, a large or unhealthy meal, you can have a temporary reprieve from your stressful life. Prior to the Navy, I was 170 pounds. I had little sympathy for overweight people and used the blanket statement, well, just eat less and work out more. Duh! I had to take a walk in their shoes. In nuke school, you do a lot of sitting around and studying. They feed you a lot of carbs because they are cheap. You are very stressed out because you're worried about passing. There is also no mandatory workout, so most of us are completely exhausted of willpower at the end of the day, and we just wanted to sit and be a couch potato during our hard-earned freedom. Many, many jobs are like this, and it has been shown that willpower is something we all have a limited amount of each day. Well, in boot camp, I went from 170 to 180 in muscle. In nuke school, I went from 180 to 200 in 6 weeks, and ended up maxing out at 220 during my Navy career. Prior to the Navy, I was always physically active, and I could eat as much as I wanted. 4 plates at a buffet was not unheard of for me. My weight remained stable, and I was rail thin. Your brain is also tuned to getting high levels of dopamine, which you have withdrawals from. I have tried smoking 3 times. My brother had a hobbit pipe from Lord of the Rings and some cherry tobacco. I tried a bit while drinking. I didn't think anything of it and liked it. A few days later, I noticed it felt completely wrong and unnatural not to smoke when the pipe came out, just like it feels wrong and unnatural not to eat a lot. At that point, I stopped recreational smoking and will never try it again. I know why and how it could be addictive, and help and incentives should be available to help people quit. The liberal view is not to restrict freedom. Freedom is the highest goal of a nation, which is why the majority of the ACLU cases are defending liberals. But if your own ignorance and addiction, as well as the psychological effects of advertising, are too great, then you really have no freedom in the choice. You don't know what you don't know. Marketing is the study of how to get people to buy things whether they need it or not. Advertising and sales are sciences and art forms in psychological manipulations. While we cannot protect everyone from being scammed or tricked into eating or doing something harmful, it is the duty of the government to try and protect its citizens from people who would do them harm, both foreign and domestic. Banks used to not give loans unless it was fairly certain the person could afford the loan. This perception of banks was taken advantage of when finance regulations were eroded and destroyed and people were given loans left and right. Predatory lending with hidden or complicated fees, and many times directed at college students, as well as the subprime mortgage market, led to the crash in the economy. Yes, people should take responsibility for their own actions, habits, and decisions, and people should be allowed to make choices for themselves. However, if people are unaware what they don't know they should fear, they will damage themselves or be over-paranoid of perceived dangers and perhaps harm themselves out of overcaution. This is why public education and public service announcements are paid for by the government and so essential. Consider them the front line in the war on ignorance, which others use to enslave them with. Because they can cross the border into propaganda, it requires work to ensure that these are both nonpartisan and science and evidence-based. Sadly, when a company or group doesn't like a scientific fact, they can make it into a partisan issue and remove it from schools and public ads. Since corporations are considered immortal people, they can say whatever they want and even lie unless the government regulates it. The energy company is exempt from the Clean Water Act in the U.S., so thanks to trade secret laws, the burden of proof is on the citizens to prove that the company is dumping toxins, which is many times nearly impossible, as the companies are innocent until proven guilty and have really high-priced lawyers, while the citizens have whatever is donated. This is what happens when capitalism reigns and the free market is unregulated. People are poisoned, whether with chemicals or food, and many times, in the case of food and drugs, they have the right to put anything into their bodies, but if informed, they would probably not want to, or at least not at that level. In the Netherlands, smart shops sell psychedelic mushrooms. Each salesman is required by law to give and explain in full detail hallucinogens and how to ensure safety before the sale is made. Dutch almost never have deaths related to hallucinogens, but about once a year a foreigner will possibly, because of mistranslation or lack of education or experience with self-control, end up dying. Freedom is the highest goal of all Americans in the Western world. Freedom of speech, freedom of privacy, freedom of information, freedom of property. However, if psychological freedom is ignored or spun as a form of slavery, then domestic psychological terrorists and slave traders will have every right to run rampant in your brain without you even realizing it.